everybody, Annette with Sheridan Art and Designs, and I am finally back in the studio and getting a chance to start my Mandalorian build. And I am doing, for some odd reason, I've decided to start with the cape. So I'm starting with the cape. And I'm doing a Kirigami design down the back of my cape. And so I thought it might be interesting for all of you to see how that's done. There's origami and then there's Kirigami. So the difference between those two, origami is taking a two-dimensional, like a piece of paper, folding it into a three-dimensional something. And Kirigami is very, very similar, except that in Kirigami, you're allowed to cut the paper. So I'm translating the Kirigami paper into fabric so that I can do this design on my Mandalorian quilt. So just thought let's just jump in and get started. This is the Kirigami design that I'm using. You can do lots of different designs with Kirigami, but this is the one that I particularly wanted to do. So I'll show you how to build a pattern for that, and then I'll give you a sneak peek. Mine's not quite done, but I'll give you a sneak peek at where I'm at with that. All right, well, let's jump in and get started. Okay, so for the first things that you'll need, I draft all of mine in paper first. So have some paper, a pencil, eraser, and I use a 2" by 18" clear plastic ruler. Do you, whatever you've got works. The math on the Kirigami depends on what you want your design to look like. And so you can have this particular design is 3 inches wide by, I used a 1/2 inch, actually I used a 3/4 inch diagonal cut on these. So 3 inches by 3/4 inch. And I can show you what that looks like. I have a pattern already made, and I'll show you how we get to the pattern in just a minute. But so this is a 3 inches by 3/4, and you can tell that's how deep those diagonal. The 3/4 inches is the space between the horizontal lines, not the width of the diagonal. On this side, I've got 3 inches wide by 1/2 inch. You see it more on this side. So my horizontal lines are 1/2 inch apart. And you can play with whatever dimensions you want. I did probably 10 to 15 mock-ups of patterns just in paper, just to see you know, how it would work with the idea that I had and what I wanted to do with it. And it really depends on the intricacy of the design. If you want something more like this that is a little stronger and bolder, then you're going to go with that. This is the 3/4 inches between the horizontal lines. If you want something that's a little more intricate or delicate, then make that space a little more narrow. Okay, so for the first thing that you will need is a piece of paper, like I said, your ruler, pencil, eraser, and that's about it. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold your paper. You could do it in half, or depending on how wide you want your design, but just make a fold, straight fold in your paper. I didn't fold my paper entirely in half, so you can see it there. All right, so we're going to put the fold on the right side and the edge of your paper on the left. And I'll just fold that back under so you can see better. Okay. And then the first thing that you're going to do, the fold that you made is actually going to be, that's on the right side, and that's going to be the center of the pattern, the very center, so where you get these peaks. where you get these peaks. That's the center of the design. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, so if I want my design to be 3 inches across, for example, then we're going to take a ruler and we're going to make just a straight line across the top so that we have a good starting spot. And then I'm going to measure 1.5 inches from the fold. So I'm putting the 1.5 inch mark on the fold, and then I'm just going to draw a vertical line right down the side. So this is the other edge of so this is the left edge of the design, the center, and then the right edge will be on the other side. Now all we need to do is draw our horizontal lines. So I'm going to do the 3/4 inch so you can see what that looks like. So I'm just going to put my 3/4 inch mark on the horizontal, the first horizontal line that you drew, and I'm going to draw one there. The first line, sorry, not your baseline. This is your baseline. Okay, that represents like the top of the garment or the fabric or the top of the paper. And then the first line that you draw becomes 0. And then what you're going to do is just carry on drawing every 3/4 of an inch, draw a horizontal line, drop it down, make sure your ruler is straight. That's really important. I'm checking my verticals as well as my horizontals to make sure that my 3/4 inch line is there. And then the next thing that you need to kind of be aware of is that you want to have an even number of lines, okay? Otherwise you'll end up with an unused slot at the end. Just going to draw these. Very quickly. All right. And then I'm going to number them. So I started with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need one more to make that even number. And there we go. That's my 10. And then I'll just draw another baseline down here at the bottom. Okay, so then once you have your horizontal lines drawn, you can start at 0. You're going to go from the left corner of 0 to the right corner on the fold. Remember, our paper's folded here. So left corner of 0 to the fold of number 2. And you're going to draw a diagonal line. And you're just going to do that moving down to each line. So 1 goes to 3, 2 goes to 4, and so on, all the way down. You can see why now you need an even number of horizontal lines. Okay, So then just take a pair of scissors that you can cut paper with, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from the center fold out to my left line, my left vertical line. And then I'm going to stop when I hit that line. And I'm going to do that all the way around, all the way down. Cut each of the diagonal lines that you just drew. Okay, now you can open that up and you can see we've got these V cuts in the paper, which is exactly what we want. So now we're going to leave this first big solid triangle, we're going to leave that down, and then we're going to pick up the next one. Okay. Now, this is a design choice. You can either cut this triangle off straight across at this line, right? You can cut that off and get rid of it and have an open space there, like that. You can fold that one up, but for our purposes today, we're going to leave it down, and then we're going to take the next one and we're going to fold that one up. Like that. We're going to skip the next one, go to that third one, so we should be on line 3 now, and fold that up. And you're going to fold it up right where you drew that horizontal line. That's your mark. You're just going to fold it right up. And now here's another design choice you get to make. You can either leave it up on top like this, or you can tuck it under the peak above it, which is what I chose to do. So skip this one, go to the next one. So we're now on line number 5. You can see line number 5. And then just pick that up and tuck it under. Skip 6, go to 7. And you do this all the way down. So you can see this is it's a cool design that you can do very quickly, unless you do some really advanced things like I was trying to do. I was doing it with curves and all kinds of things. So more to come on that. So this is the basic Kirigami design. And so once you have it all tucked up like that, now you could decide what you want to do with it, right? So for mine, translating this to fabric is a little bit different. Very, very similar, but a little bit different. So what you can do is take your pattern, just take the one I just made. So we'll undo this, all flat, and fold it back on that center line again. So now it's ready to go to use as a pattern, right? So I've got an extra piece of just black felt, nothing fancy about it. And what I want to do is I want to put this Kirigami design on here. Now you can put it in chalk, you can draw it on. If your fabric is conducive to that, great. Putting chalk on felt is not the easiest thing to do. So what I chose to do was, for this simple simple straight one like this, excuse me, what you can do is just pin this down, pin the pattern down to your felt. Sorry, you're going to want to fold your felt in half. So you've got your center line. You're going to line the center line of your pattern up with the fold of your felt. So I've got my felt folded underneath here. This is the fold, and I've got my pattern lined up. So fold to fold. Now, the next thing that you'd need to do, what I would do is if it was long like this, I would pin it down. I left my pins in the other room, so that's okay. Now you just take a pair of sharp snips, and you want snips that are sharp all the way to the point, right? And then you can start at either the top or the bottom, it doesn't matter. But you just lift up that first one so that you've got, okay, so we're fold to fold. I'm lifting this first one up so you can see my blank, and that's where my first line needs to be cut, is right up against this. So I'm going to cut that. Put that one down and lift this one up. Now what I found is if you have your ruler handy, you can just lay that right on top of the one that you just cut. And it kind of helps hold things in place. And it keeps, you know, the ones that you're done using from flapping around. And then we just go through, cut the next one. And you're going to do this all the way up. Until you have you've cut all of the diagonal lines. And as you're lifting them up, you want to make sure that you're folding them all the way back onto that first vertical line that you drew. That goes down, this one comes up. We've got about 4 more to go. Now, fabric choice matters here. You want to use a fabric that doesn't unravel. Like this would not work well with a cotton broadcloth because you need a fabric that doesn't require edge finishing for this design to work really well. Otherwise, you'd have to go back and finish every single one of these cuts, and it will also interfere with the design, so because you'll have a larger gap than what you measured at the onset. So pick a fabric, like I chose a felt. You could do a wool, you could do I chose a felted wool actually. You could do polyester felt, you could neoprene also works very well. So any fabric that doesn't unravel when you cut it. All right, so now I can put my pattern aside, and you can see here I've got my felt unfolded and I've got all of my V's cut. So very similarly, we'll just do the same thing. Here's that first triangle. Now again, I have another one here. You can choose to cut the triangle out if you like. That's a pure design choice, or you can leave it on. The next one, so you leave one down, you pick one up, and that one will fold up. Leave one down, pick one up. Now you're going to want to have your pins. I should have grabbed my pins. Sorry about that. And fold it up. And then you're just going to work the design all the way down. like that. Now, how do you secure it for good? There's lots of different ways you could do that. You could glue it, you could use heat and bond. In fact, I used a 1/4-inch heat and bond to just secure it long enough for me to go to the sewing machine, because when you're doing a larger design like I'm doing on my cape, you're moving this fabric through the sewing machine quite a lot, and the pins will jostle and move around and pop out. So I found that just putting a 1/4-inch of heat and bond right under each one of these, right, just as you fold it up, so heat and bond here and here, and then one under that peak, and so it just hit it with an iron and it holds it beautifully, and then I can just take it to the machine and then do all of the stitching down. Now, you don't have to stitch it down. You can choose, in this one, you can choose to, I used 1/2-inch lines on this one so you can see the difference. You can choose to leave it loose, depending on what you're doing with it. My Mandalorian cape's going to take a lot of beating going to cons, so I wanted the design very secure. The other thing that you can opt to do, like I've seen this done with like a delicate fabric with a sleeve detail. The Kirigami goes down the middle of the sleeve as a detail. That one gets down. So you can leave it loose like this, or you can stitch it down like in this example. The other thing you can do is you can choose to leave it sheer, like leave it blank on the back. You don't have to back it with anything. It will stay perfectly fine there. You do want to make sure that you've got a good border of fabric around the design so that so the design doesn't distort. But I chose for my Mandalorian cape my helmet. This is my helmet, and the main color theme here is I have the Beskar gray. I've got a silver, an antique gold, and this weathered teal color. And I really wanted to pick up the teal because my flight suit, my flak vest are going to be this Beskar gray, and so I wanted to kind of pick up the gold, silver, and teal in the cape to tie everything all together. And so I chose to back my design with some teal cotton. This is just a cotton twill, and that's what it looks like on the back side after I've stitched it all down. And then I'm going to be lining, so you won't see this on the inside of my cape because I've got a lightweight black cotton twill that will be the lining of the cape, so it will hide all of this, and it will be almost indiscernible against the black felt as a lining. So there you go. That's the Kirigami design and how you do it. And I'll pull out my cape and I'll show you a little bit more advanced design. So this is the basic design, and let me just clear the table off and I'll get my cape out and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I've got my cape, or at least the fabric for the cape on the table here. I'm doing 2 intersecting diamonds with the Kirigami design inside the diamonds. So you can see how I've got the design already done. And what I did was I patterned everything out on tissue paper first, just so that I could see what the design would look like. Tried some colors. So this is what the tissue paper pattern looks like. And then all I did was take some interfacing. So just a light to medium weight interfacing like this. And so it's the glue side, this is the top side. And I laid this down underneath my tissue pattern Just placed it right under there. And then I put a layer of carbon paper down on top of the interfacing, and then the tissue pattern over the top of that. And I took my tracing wheel, because this is a really fast way to get your patterns onto interfacing, or some other way. If you pattern something out on tissue and you want to transfer it, or on regular pattern paper and onto tissue, same method. Just throw some carbon paper down in between the layers, and then just take your tracing wheel and then run along all the lines. I used my ruler to keep everything nice and straight, and then I had that transferred my tissue design onto the interfacing. And you can see the diamonds out here, and then I've got a diamond in the center as well. And these diagonal lines, I have 2 long and 2 short on the sides of the diamonds, are going to be the Kirigami designs. And you can see I only drew in 1/2 of the lines, because the center line down the middle of each of these sections is the fold line. That's my center point. So it's very important that if you're embedding the Kirigami into a larger design, that you leave a couple of things. One, I left a 1/4 inch border around the whole thing, just to make sure that I had good stabilization of the Kirigami designs. I didn't want to get anything too close to that, because these are all going to be cuts, and so I wanted to stabilize that. So I put a 1/4 inch border all the way around, which I'll trim out, and then marked the center line down each of the sections, and that allowed me to determine which way I wanted these to go as well. So because you can face your diamonds going one way or the other, so that allowed me to work that out as well. So once I got that done, and if you do use the interfacing, I just kind of heat basted this to the back of the fabric. This is all going to get peeled off, so if you're going to use this method, don't really adhere it, following the manufacturer's instructions as if you were making like a collar or shirt cuffs or something, where you really want a good adhesion. You just want to do a light heat basting of it, so that it's very easy to lift off. Because once you cut all your slats here, you're going to have to peel the interfacing off, and I have a section that's done. Can see that here. So I have this section done already. This one is ready for me to take to the machine and put the teal backing fabric on it. But you want to take off all of the interfacing off of the felt once you have it cut, because once you start working that design, this is the right side. Once you start working that design, as you flip each one of these up and tuck it under the corner, you're going to see the underside of the fabric, the wrong side of the fabric, as you fold those V's up. So you want to make sure that you've chosen a fabric. Like mine, it's very difficult to on a felt to determine the right or wrong side. So it's very forgiving in that way. And then the last thing that I did, turn this all the way over so that you can see. And before I started cutting, that's important, it's easier to see on this one. Sorry, this cape is a little unwieldy, it's big. All right, so you can see that what I did was this is a 5.5 millimeter length stitch, just a nice long basting stitch, and I ran it through the sewing machine with a basting stitch so that I could see where those diamonds are and where my borders are. That's a real fast, easy way, and it's just basting, so that will pop right out, no worries. And then this is the diamond that I'm working on here. So you can see I've got my diamond borders in, and I've left some blank here and here. I want to get my Kirigami designs in first, and then I will make sure I've got a nice border securing each of those all the way around, and that I don't have a whole lot of, you know, negative black space on the Kirigamis. Like on this one, I have enough room where I can add another one, which I probably will do. And that's it. That's the Kirigami design. I hope you enjoyed this. If there's other design details that you'd like us to do, I'm sure I'll come back with a finished look after I've got the cape done, and let you see how it all looks together with all the trim. I've got some gold and silver trim that I'll be putting on it as well. All right, if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and we'll be back with another tutorial in not too many weeks.